Hello there, and welcome to Labour Media. I'm particularly excited for today's video because it's on one of my favourite topics, markets versus planning. Why is this a favourite topic of mine? Because it is fantastically, incredulously easy. Easy to argue in favour of planning and against markets. Markets are intensely integral to capitalism, and they're so inclined to failure that even liberal economics classes get taught about how much the market is likely to fail. However, they're not going to tell you the whole story, and they're not going to tell you how markets are not only built to fail, but built to collapse entirely. For that, we're going to need some Marxian economics. First of all, let's define markets. What are they? The market, if we're talking in a macro-micro sense, is the avenue through which commodities are sold by competing private firms for profit. Say that 10 times fast. Profit is surplus labour value, revenue minus operating and capital cost plus wages. When a firm makes profit, that profit is reinvested back into the firm to expand it, whether that be done by taking on more workers, taking on more capital, expanding marketing, etc. When one firm victors in competition, then they most likely begin to buy out losing firms and merge them into their own business. This system of profit-fueling competition between private firms is where we begin to see problems arise. Let us suppose for a moment that a firm brings in a new piece of capital, a machine that makes production cheaper, for instance. This allows the firm's goods to be sold at a lower price, leading to an increase in demand and an increase in profit for the capitalist managing the firm. However, because of the surrounding competition, this is unlikely to occur for long. If a business does not stay in line with its competitors for the pursuit of profit, it dies or is bought out by a bigger firm. To avoid this, competing businesses copy leading firms and take similar actions. They cut their prices, their profits go up, but the overall rate of profit is brought back down, where we now have more efficient production and cut prices. This essentially means the pursuit of profit is infinite. It will always fall, and thus the need to expand cannot stop. This is where we encounter the problem of infinite growth, because the rate of profit is always falling, and more profit is always needed. Firms always need to grow on and on and on. The consequences of this are myriad, and we'll look at some of the more defined contradiction in a mere moment, but let's establish this immediately. All the exploitation caused by capitalism is sharpened by this arch contradiction of the falling rate of profit. Wages stagnate and working conditions worsen, so more profit can be made. The environment is polluted and damned by rampant emissions, so more profit can be made. Countries in the imperial periphery are horrendously exploited by multinational corporations in imperialist wars, so more profit can be made. Firms always need more profit. Costs always need to be cut. There is no end to how much profit is required to prevent a firm's extinction. Let's go more into how much of a disaster is caused by this intrinsic feature of the market. We'll begin with the production of commodities. What's a commodity? A commodity is an article created with human labour power, such as linen or a coat, which is produced to be exchanged rather than used. Or, to put it over eloquently, commodities are depositories of exchange value. Essentially, capitalists produce commodities not according to need, but in quantities great enough to be sold en masse. Since the need for profit is infinite, the need to sell commodities is similarly endless. There are many byproducts of this phenomena, but the one we'll touch on here is the waste caused. You've probably heard stories of how there are more homes than there are homeless, or how we now produce enough food to feed everyone on Earth and then some. Likewise, you may have heard about the Dunkin' Donuts employee fired for giving away wasted food, or the story of a dumpster of wasted food being protected by police to prevent the homeless eating that discarded but edible food. Why is this? If unsold goods were simply given away, it would drive demand down. This would diminish market share and thus diminish profit. Therefore, the capitalist must avoid this. As police make up the special repressive forces that serve the state and thus the ruling bourgeois class, they serve to protect the interests of private property, of capital. Therefore, they work to ensure the continued pursuit of profit by enforcing this reign of waste. Market production, acting for the sake of exchange value rather than use value, is an engine of waste that is creating a surplus but does not distribute that surplus for the sake of upholding the pursuit of endless profit. So long as there are markets and independent firms, there will be waste. A lot of what we're talking about is what happens in the process of competition between firms, but we must too address what happens when a firm loses in a competition. Frequently, this will result in the firm's closing and the unemployment of its workers, a demonstration that there will always be some unemployment under a market economy. However, there is another possibility. If a business is dying, it can be bought out by more adept competitors in the market, merged into growing oligopolies and monopolies as businesses fuse into bigger businesses still. Scarcely can a firm now be found that does not own another business, it's owned by another business, or both. With this inevitable race towards monopoly, the few supposed benefits of competition are drowned out. There is no need to innovate. There is no need to provide variety. There is no need to improve service. There's no more choice. Not merely this, but But those with the interests of profit become the ones who create our news, those who inform our reality. Art, in all its forms, is no longer a free vehicle upon which all people can come and adapt it. The ability to reproduce art over and over is stifled by copyright and the hegemons who dictate it. All that humanity has ever created is on course to be in the hands of a few. The market cannot create innovation, it cannot breed creativity, it cannot improve its products or services in a greatly beneficial way, it has no need to, as oligopolies race to be formed. After all, it would be on profit to do so, and even a firm greatest in size cannot escape the need for ascending earnings. It's a bit grim, eh? Let's talk about something a bit more fun. Robots! And by I mean let someone else talk about it, because I'm joined by the Socialist method, who will be talking about the pursuit of profit in the market and its relation to automation. They also make a bunch of socialist content on their channel, and I highly recommend giving them a watch. They make some great stuff. On to you, Nat.
Big thanks to Jack for letting me onto Labour Media today. In case you didn't know, hi, I'm Comrade Natalie. I go by she, they pronouns, and I'm also a leftist YouTuber. Today, I've been asked to talk to you all about stuff. Can't get any better than this, can we? So then, a big contradiction within capitalism is the inherent drive for profit. My favourite one, might I add. This leads to an increased demand for labour power, and more labour will cause a rise in wages. This wage rise will inevitably lead to the capitalists subsidising machinery for labour. It is also worth noting that surplus value, as we know it by the Marxist perspective, is drawn from the extraction of labour. Taking into account how automation is growing under capitalism, we must understand that surplus value cannot be drawn from automation. This is due to the fact that it's much less valuable than handmade labour and makes commodities cheaper to produce. Therefore, since the proletariat is the basis of this labour, and all human labour will sooner or later be replaced by machinery, this will make the margin for accumulating profit much thinner, thus decreasing profit and causing internal crisis. This is also why many of us on the left are against UBI. When we become fully automated, all of the profit will only be going towards a small section of society, and whatever crumbs are left will be shoved down our fucking throats. Lovely.
A huge thank you to the Socialist Method for contributing that segment to the video. Again, definitely check them out, they make great content. In conclusion, markets will lead us to extinction if they're allowed to propagate. The infinite drive for growth and profit they demand leads to competition that sharpens and exploitation until the point of monopoly, wherein all that is to make of humanity comes divorced from ourselves and squandered, commodified into endless articles produced at the cost of waste and environmental devastation. All this destruction, all this growth, all this commodification of life itself, all for a few to see a line go up. Thank you for watching. A huge thank you again to the Socialist Method for her part in this video. I highly recommend giving her stuff a look. There's a link to their channel in the description. Also in the description, I've got the transcript for this piece, as always, to counter my fast talking, which is probably evident here. Whilst I got you here, I'll note that the next video coming will probably be a piece on the free sources and free components by Lenin, basically just explaining that in a video. If it's the next video, of course, it's going to be explaining it in a video. Should be a look. I think that's everything. This has been Labour Media, and remember, Labour conquers all.